Hello America, this is Call of Duty Goddess. Today is July the 22nd, 2016. I'm at the American Thinker, and I'd first like to thank Tara Barton, and I'd also like to thank Emmy for giving this information to me. So let's get started here. The Hostage Air Base and its Hydrogen Bombs, this is titled, and it's from July 20th, 2016. The United States runs its air operations against ISIS in Iraq from Incirlik Air Base in Turkey. The base used by other NATO forces as well is not American, it's Turkish, and the U.S. needs government permission to fly from there. Since the July 15th coup attempt in Ankara, U.S. forces at Incirlik are essentially hostages to the Turkish government. The Turkish base commander and his aides have been arrested. U.S. personnel are confined to the base. Outside power has been cut off. And while the U.S. has been permitted to resume operations over Iraq and Syria, it's working under adverse conditions, to say the least. A description of those conditions are verified by True News from parents and spouses of U.S. airmen currently stationed at Incirlik Air Base. No supplies have been flown in or driven into the installation since Saturday. Food and water are being strictly rationed, and only 1 week of fuel reserves remain to power their electric generators. A mother of an airman sequestered inside Incirlik told True News that her son informed her early Wednesday that Turkish police are still blockading the base entrance, and that the electric generators powering flight operations and the underground bunkers housing B-61 nuclear bombs would remain on until fuel rations were extinguished. Her son also claimed that Secretary of Defense Ash Carter vetoed a plan to transfer all personnel and equipment from the base after the military coup began Friday night, citing that the move was too expensive. This really makes you think of a repeat Benghazi, doesn't it? There are almost 1,500 persons at Incirlik, and they are in mortal danger. They are in a hostile nation with a long history of heinous violence against infidels. It doesn't matter what firepower we have. The average U.S. soldier at Incirlik right now is like a child inside of Michael Jackson's house. You are in mortal danger, and there is no escape except for going far, far away from that place. Our government has to know this, just like they knew that their nuclear weapons are being stolen from them. The fact that they are choosing to do nothing means this is being orchestrated at very high levels in our government with full consent of persons in the military and State Department. If you haven't figured it out yet, the fact that the government knows all of this and is still letting our people stay in Turkey means they are setting them up to be sitting ducks for a massacre. Now, I'm not saying that a massacre is inevitable. What I'm saying is that allowing U.S. soldiers to be in such a place, knowing they are in such danger, is in practice making them a target for attack and use for geopolitical purposes at a later point. And then you have to think about Black Lives Matter and what's going on right now with them. This is total insanity. Bam, 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 one thing right after another. I'm not saying that people aren't getting killed. I'm not saying anything of the like. But what are the chances that all this stuff with Black Lives Matter would happen at just this point? And keep in mind, I've looked into the Lavish Reynolds thing, and I have some serious doubts about what took place in that vehicle. He even goes on to say this is a complete facade to try to convince people there is a race war, and in doing so they will be able to suspend the elections and allow for either Hillary Clinton to be appointed to the presidential office or allow Obama to keep power indefinitely. Either way, it's all BS. Now, I'm saying this Black Lives Matter thing and a lot of other things that are going on at this very moment that was going on, especially on and around the 15th of July, was done for a reason. And I want to show you what that reason is. Now, I first want to show you that at the Incirlik Air Force Base, there are 5 U.S.-led coalition members in the fight against ISIL, namely the United States, the United Kingdom, Germany, Qatar, and Saudi Arabia. Okay? Now, I'm going to show you exactly what keeps ISIS running, the funding and support of a terror organization. According to the director of the Center for Research into the Arabic World at the University of Mainz, not sure if I pronounced that properly, the most important source of ISIS funding to date has been support coming out of the Gulf states, primarily Saudi Arabia, but also Qatar, Kuwait, and the United Arab Emirates. Who is in that airfield again? Isn't Qatar and Saudi Arabia there? Let's double check. Well, there you go. Qatar and Saudi Arabia are 2 of the main funders of ISIS. Now, most of us already know, if you're watching this video, if you're even looking at a YouTube video that I've made, you know that the United States has been funding ISIS. So, now that we know that a portion of the people that are on that Air Force base openly fund ISIS, the rest of them, I'd say fund ISIS, but not openly. So, let's get to the bombshell part of this article, shall we? Well, it turns out that on the very same day that that so-called coup began in Syria at Incirlik Air Force Base, where around 1,500 of our soldiers are stationed with no electricity in the blistering heat, and there is an arsenal of nuclear weapons there. Turns out the same day that that coup started, John Kerry announced a secret agreement with Russia to cooperate in Syria. It looks as though we've switched sides again, folks, and I don't think Erdogan is very happy about it. This is an article from Breitbart from July the 19th. The Obama administration and Russia have agreed to join forces in Syria against the Islamic State and Nusra Front, Al-Qaeda's affiliate in Syria. U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry has refused to make some details of the deal public, prompting critics to say that the Obama administration has conceded too much. The agreement is expected to benefit the Russian-backed Syria dictator Bashar al-Assad and his allies, which include Shiite Iran and its terror proxy Hezbollah, by helping to take out some of their most effective enemies, the Sunni terrorist groups ISIS and the al-Nusra Front. Prior to announcing the agreement on July the 15th is when the agreement was announced. That's when John Kerry went to Russia. And when did the coup take place? Prior to announcing the agreement on July 15th, Kerry met with Russian President Vladimir Putin about increasing military and intelligence cooperation against ISIS and the al-Nusra Front. Kerry's refusal to publicize details of the deal prompted critics to accuse the Obama administration of conceding too much. Citing the text of the proposal says it would open the way for deep cooperation between U.S. and Russian military and intelligence agency and coordinated air attacks by American and Russian planes on Syrian rebels deemed to be terrorists. While this would expand the U.S. counterterrorism mission in Syria, it would also be a boon for the Assad regime. The deal comes after a top Obama administration official acknowledged that the U.S. focus on ISIS has allowed its rival, the Nusra Front, to become the largest al-Qaeda affiliate in history. And it goes on to state that Reuters explains the Nusra Front has been one of the most effective anti-Assad forces, and American-backed rebel groups often coordinate their activities with its units. In Russia's view, that means that Washington is effectively supporting the neutral front, and that the American-backed groups are legitimate targets. So a joint campaign against the group not only would appear to concede Russia's point, but could also bring American firepower to bear against the strongest anti-Assad military force and a sometime partner of Washington's allies. And who would that be, ladies and gentlemen? That would be none other than ISIS. So now that we know that we've switched sides and why the fake coup happened at that Air Force base in Turkey, and we know now that Erdogan is very angry that Kerry went to Vladimir Putin and signed an agreement with him stating we would be on their side. What do you think's going to happen to our military soldiers there at that Air Force base where Erdogan is, and all those nukes that are there? What do you think's going to happen? Also, what do you think's going to happen with our monetary policy? Putinism with the BRICS system. Speaking of monetary policy, isn't it odd that Brexit just happened not long ago? And if you know your history pretty well, you know that we aren't a free country, and we haven't been for a long time. The Queen is our boss. So let's see if the Queen and the United Kingdom and Germany join in with us and Putin in Syria. That'll really tell the tale, won't it? I think that may have something to do with the Brexit, but we'll have to wait and see and dig up a little more on that. Also, I have found, with the help of my friend Emmy, we have found that there are a lot of crazy things that have taken place around that Air Force base. And we've made sort of a timeline, and it's so much work to it. It's going to take me a while to do, but I figured I should get this out to you to show you that there is a connection between the fake coup and why it took place. So, ladies and gentlemen, I think it's going to be time pretty soon to have a new currency. And I think that's why you're seeing this huge gun grab going on. Everything's starting to come down all at once since we've switched sides yet again and signed something with Putin that is secret. We have signed a secret agreement with Putin. Should John Kerry be able to do that and us not know what he did? I'd think it's going to be pretty detrimental. So you can use your imagination on that. And I'll be making another part to this that is much more detailed. So stay tuned for that. This is Call of Duty Goddess signing off, and as always, I've got your 6.